Shalom. This week's Sedra is Dvar Torah Tzav. It's also Shabbat HaGadol, Shabbat before Pesach. It's an exciting Sedra, one that really goes through the laws of the Korbanot, of the offerings in the Beit HaMikdash. Although it doesn't sound so exciting at face value, if one really delves in beneath the surface and looks past just the literal meaning of the words and imagines the splendor and the majesty of the Beit HaMikdash and the beauty that we miss in our daily lives, the Sedra just starts getting more and more exciting as you read on. This week, simple advice. Take out your Chumash, learn through the Sedra well, really begin to understand the splendor and the beauty of the Beit HaMikdash. As the Sedra begins, we see an interesting idea. The Kohen is commanded, or it was one Kohen every day, a different Kohen does the job, to do what's called a Trumat HaDeshet, which is to clean off the top of the Mizbeach. The whole night, Korbanot offerings were being burnt, and the ashes and the dirt have collected. The next morning, somebody has to clean up the mess. The Kohen that does it, as the Torah explains, puts on linen garments, goes up to the Mizbeach, up the ramp to the Mizbeach, cleans off the ashes, comes down, changes his clothes, and dumps the ashes outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi explains that this idea of changing one's clothes when taking the ashes out is not an obligation, it's not a mitzvah, it's not a chiyuv, rather it's derech eretz. And that the Kohen does this, and he gives an analogy to explain. He says that the clothes that you wear when serving the master, obviously when you dress nice because you're lifting your master, you're before your master, should not be the same clothes as when you're preparing the meal. The chef, when he presents his meal, changes his shirt. He doesn't look as dirty as he did when he was preparing the meal. That's derech eretz, Rashi explains. The Ramban, among many others, questions Rashi, how Rashi understands the difference here in a pasuk telling us to do something with all the other pasukim. How is it that this pasuk that tells us to do something is not a chiyuv, is not a mitzvah, while other pasukim right and left in the Torah we see are instructive and we count as mitzvot, as obligations? How is it that this is not an obligation? One way we can explain it is as follows. We really have to define what derech eretz is. Derech eretz are things that are obvious to us. Ways that we interact with ourselves, not with other people, ways that we behave that are obvious. How do these things become obvious? They're intuitive, but an intuition based on past learning of the Torah. Where we see the method of where the Torah directs us, our intuition is able to apply that to new areas. That's really the idea of what derech eretz is. When Rashi explains to us that it's derech eretz to change your clothes from when you're standing in front of Hashem to when you're taking the ashes out, that's something that's obvious. That the Kohen should intuit, and it's not necessary for us to have a mitzvah. It doesn't necessitate an obligation. Rashi is explaining to us that the obvious, the things that we should know, do not require a mitzvah. And that's a lesson that the Torah teaches all over. We're very familiar with the idea of derech eretz kadma l'Torah, that derech eretz comes before Torah. While we like to apply that to how we treat others, really I think we have a new definition this week. The idea is that the obvious, the things that we should know, really come before the Torah. That's the foundation upon which the Torah is built. It's an idea this week where we see where the Kohen has to change his clothes, and really an idea that we should understand how really important common sense is to one that wants to observe the Torah. Shabbat Shalom to all.